Hey everybody, it's Clocky clocking in. We've got the new set coming out here soon on March 27th, Shining Revelry. A ton of new EXs, a ton of new cards that we already know about. We're going to look at a couple of those cards and see if they're really going to be defining the meta. We're going to take a look at a couple of the new cards that have come out. They've been shown through the advertisement and stuff, so we know how a bunch of the EXs work. So we're going to figure out which cards are going to define the meta, which cards are going to kind of break the meta. And which cards they're just going to be there. They're just going to exist, and that's okay too. First and foremost, Charizard EX. Gotta love Charizard. Everybody loves Charizard. Shiny Charizard has always been one of my favorite shinies. It's such a clean one. You can see there's a new rarity as well. I assume it's specifically for shiny Pokemon. But if you look at the bottom left there, you'll see that this card has 2 shiny stars. So that's something cool to note. Alright, so this Charizard has the attack Stoke. Stoke is pretty cool. What it does is it takes 3 fire energy from your energy zone and you attach it to Charizard. And then it has Steam Artillery, which is a basic move for 150 damage. It takes 5 energy. I'm pretty sure this is like the first like officially 5 energy attack. Blastoise EX technically has an attack that if it has 5 energy, it does more damage, but it only needs 3 energy to use it. So technically the first 5 energy move, technically not. Depends on how you look at it. But Stoke is really cool because it means you can start with a fire energy on the Charizard once you get it to Charizard. And then you just Stoke, and then literally the next turn you'll be able to use Steam Artillery. It's pretty sick. So it's literally you just Stoke and then you go. This card is already crazy because it does 150 damage and it sets itself up, which is wild. I'm not sure what you would pair this with because it doesn't need Moltres. It builds its own energy. So this is something that like until you get it to Charizard, you're still going to keep it on the back line. But you're probably going to play something else in the active spot. This is really good. Now, whether or not we're going to see if it's better than normal Charizard EX, not sure yet. Like, I love Shiny Charizard. It looks incredible. The fact that it builds energy on its own is sick, so it gives us some more, like, room with Fire-type decks. Because right now, a lot of Fire-type decks are either, like, Blaine decks or the Charizard Moltres deck. So, we'll see. This might be crazy. I think people are glazing it a little right now. Like, it's good, don't get me wrong, but, like, you have to evolve it, and I don't think you're going to run Moltres with this. There's not really, like, a reason to. You could. I mean, that's not, like, the worst idea in the world, but there's probably something else that we could probably use. And there might be something else in the set, too, that'll really pair well with this. We'll see. But already Charizard's looking really good. Okay, the next one we've got here, Lucario EX. We've seen this as well. It's looking really good as well. Lucario is one of a lot of people's favorite Pokemon. I like the shiny a lot. This one's really good. It's a 3 fighting type energy move. It does 100 damage or sphere, and also does 30 damage to the backline. So it's essentially, this is just a better Empoleon. It's a stage 1. It benefits from a regular Lucario, so I'm sure a lot of people will be running like a regular Lucario and a Lucario EX. A lot of people were like, you could run 2 of each, but you can only run 2 Riolu. So don't go thinking you can run 4. You can't run 2 regular Lucario and this Lucario EX. It's like impossible. So don't try. Unless there's like a shiny. I assume there's a shiny Riolu. But I'm going to assume that since even shiny Pokemon have the same name, that I don't think you can just evolve it and make it into a new Pokemon. I don't think that's a thing. So I don't think you can run around with 4 Riolu. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have a feeling you can't run around with 4 Riolu. But you can technically have 4 Lucario. I don't think you would do that in a deck. You would probably use like probably 2 Lucario EX and then 1 regular Lucario is probably what you'd run. Or maybe 2 regular Lucario and 1 Lucario EX, but I don't think you run all 4. But it's a neat option. The fact that you could do 120 damage to a frontline Pokemon and then do 30 damage to a backline is like really sick. If you have, we haven't seen it yet, but there's Red. Red lets you do 20 extra damage, so it's basically just a better Giovanni, which is incredible. So you could pair this with Red to do, and Lucario to do 140 damage still to a front line, which knocks out a lot of EXs that are currently in the meta, especially Arceus. And also this just is a sick looking card. So if you can get this card, I would be making a deck for it like immediately because it looks incredible. And it looks like it'll be a good card. All right, since I mentioned it, we've got to look at it. This is the Trainer Red. It is looking so clean. I just thought I'd show you guys this. Attacks used by your Pokemon do 20 plus damage to the opponent's active EX. It's literally just Giovanni, but better. So, like, if you wanted to make like a super aggro deck, there's nothing stopping you from running 2 Giovannis and 2 Reds. I don't know why you would, but hey, It is literally just a better Giovanni. And look at it. I mean, I know people like Giovanni. Don't get me wrong. Giovanni, you know, he's got that bad guy charisma. But Red though, I mean, Red's a classic. So I'm super pumped. Hopefully, I'm hoping this is like my chase card. Just the card itself looks sick. And it being a card that lets your Pokemon do 20 more damage, I can imagine this being in a lot of people's decks. This is definitely going to be a staple for a ton of people, because I think a lot of people, they only run like one Giovanni, because 10 damage isn't really much of a break point, but 20 damage can really reach a lot of break points. So you'll definitely see a lot of red in people's decks coming up here soon, for sure. All right, let's look at some of the other EXs. These images are going to be blurry because we only have images of like the starter deck thing that they showed us, but they do show what they do, so we know what they do. Tinkaton EX is actually, I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. Some people are kind of saying it's mid. I think it looks pretty good. It's a stage 2 EX, so you do have to evolve it there, or get it there. We don't know what the pre-evolutions look like, though. Maybe the pre-evolutions have some fun, or do crazy damage, who knows. But this is a card that already exceeds anyone's expectations, because you can ramp with Dialga. So if you... The idea behind Tinkaton EX is that you just do what you do with Charizard EX, where you run 2 Dialga, and then we're going to run this line. So you would run, like you do with Moltres, and then Charizard, you do Dialga and this. They kind of go hand in hand. It's like the same exact thing. Is this better than, like, Licky Licky? I kind of think so. I mean, Licky Licky is more consistent because it is a Stage 1 EX. However, you have to... The guarantee on whether or not you're getting a whole lot of damage is, like, iffy. Whereas this is, like, you will... Like, you get heads, you're doing 160 damage out the bat. And I think 80 base damage, even if you get tails, is still really good for a move that takes 3 energy. So, you know, I think this will actually surprise a lot of people. I'm willing to bet this will actually be a pretty sick addition to a lot of people's decks for sure. And I think Dialga and this will actually pair together really well. I do. I really do. All right, this is one that I think is going to be interesting. Giratina EX is crazy. It has a move that takes 4 psychic energy. It does 130 damage, does 20 damage to itself. Okay, whatever, who cares? The ability is what's important here. The ability allows it to generate energy for itself, but you ends your turn. You ends your turn. That's grammar. And it's important to know that, because you can put it in the active or the bench, it doesn't matter, it'll do it, but you can't attack. And at first I thought this card kind of sucked, because I looked at it and I was like, that's kind of dumb. So what, you just build energy on a turn and you can't attack? And then I remembered, Darkrai and Druddigon are right there. Would you run this instead of Magnezone? I think so, because it's way easier to pull a Giratina out of your deck than it is to get a Magnezone to a Magnezone. And then this gives you... So you basically, what you would run in a Giratina EX deck is you would just run Drud, Darkrai, and Giratina. Giratina makes its own psychic energy, so you don't have to worry about throwing dark energy on it at all. It'll just make its own energy. And you can slowly do chip damage while you build up your Darkrai and your Giratina, and you just let your Drud sit up front. And that's the idea. I think that sounds... it's a bit scummy. but it sounds like it could be interesting. I don't know if it'll be better than Magnezone. The recoil damage is kind of tough, but the fact that it doesn't like get rid of energy on it like Magnezone does, you know, it builds its own energy. And you're like, well, it doesn't attack, but like if you're doing 20 damage with Darkrai and you're leaving Drud up front, you might be able to build the energy up fast enough that you won't need to worry about not attacking until it's time for your turn to attack. So I think this could be a pretty good card. Not gonna lie, I think this could cook alongside like Darkrai. I think that would be a really fun deck. So, and I love Giratina. Giratina is such a sick legendary, so I'm excited to see it get an EX, which means it'll get a full art, which means I think there's a chance this gets a shiny full art, and shiny Giratina is crazy. I love shiny Giratina, so if we can get one of those, that'd be incredible. Hey, look, it's Pikachu. Just like Charizard, it's like, oh, wow, who cares? So Pika EX is, I don't think it's that good. It does Thunderbolt. It does what Raichu does, where it discards all electric energy from the Pokemon for 150 damage. It's a slightly better version of the Raichu one, and you get rid of all your electric energy, and it takes 3 energy to use. I don't know when you would use this. This is sort of like a Raichu use case, but like at least with Raichu, it's like Raichu's a 1 prize. Like if something weird happens and you're playing Raichu and it gets knocked out, it's whatever. This is just a worse version of the Pika EX we already have, in my opinion. Like you might as well just run the Pika EX we already have. I don't think there's much of a reason to run this card. I think it's kind of crap. Like Infernape is better. Like, yeah, this is a basic, But I don't really see this, like, I don't see a use case for this. I really don't. I really don't know, like after you pop off the initial Thunderbolt, if that's not the finishing blow, what do you do with this? You got to get it out of the way. So it could be like a Luxray deck would actually kind of maybe cook with this, like Vulcan or Luxray. But I've run Luxray a lot, and you need a lot to go right for Luxray to like pop off properly. So I don't know. And also Lieutenant Surge exists, although I don't remember if it affects Pikachu or Raichu. Actually, hold on. Let me look at that real quick just before we go too in depth here. Okay, so the way this works is that it's to a Raichu, Electrode, or Electabuzz, not to Pikachu. So you can't use a Lieutenant Surge to, like, if you're generating energy from like a Magneton in the back line or something. Doesn't work. Regular Raichu has more punch than this card does, I would say. And it's a 1 prize card, it's not a 2 prize card. So I think this card, I don't think you use it. All right, let's talk about Wugtrio EX, because Wugtrio EX looks like a ton of fun. If you know Dragonite, it's pretty much the same move as Draco Meteor. It's called Pop Out Throughout. It only takes 3 water energy, and you essentially do 50 damage 3 times to random Pokemon. So it might happen to the active, it might happen spread out, who knows. It's the same thing pretty much, though, as Dragonite. The reason why, like, I think this is kind of better than Dragonite is because it's only water energy. Water energy decks ramp really well right now with Manaphy and Vaporeon, so you could still do some good stuff with this card. And it's only 3 water energy instead of 4 energy, and then you have to hope you get an electric. It's a whole thing. So it's definitely like a worse Dragonite, but you could run 2 Wugtrios and use 2 Wugtrios. A lot of Dragonite decks that I've run before, you use 1 Dragonite. You know, you don't get to use 2. But this, and this is a stage 1, whereas Dragonite's a stage 2. So I think there's a lot where you could kind of work Wugtrio EX into. So I think this is a really good card. I think it's fun. And there's like a lot of cases where you could probably use this alongside, like, it's only 3 water energy. Like, you might not even need Manaphy. Like, this might kind of cook in even like a Starmie EX deck. Like, using this with Starmie EX would be kind of cool. I don't know. I think this is going to be a fun card, though. I think this is definitely going to be one of the more fun cards to use for sure. Clodsire! We got Clodsire too. I love Clodsire. What a cutie. This card's okay. It's Venoshock. It does 60. It is a stage 1 though that has Venoshock, whereas I think like normally the Pokemon that have Venoshock, like Scolipede, are stage 2. So this is a stage 1 that has Venoshock. It has 160 health, which is really good on an EX, especially a stage 1 EX. So that's actually a really good spot. You put a Giant Cape on that, it has 180 health. That's pretty good. Or even like Rocky Helmet. But yeah, if the opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, it does 120 damage instead of 60. It's pretty good, especially if Wooper poisons, which I imagine it will have a move that uses poison. Then this will pop off. This will be like incredible. So I'm really hoping we get to see some crazy decks with this Clodsire. But we'll see. Venoshock, I don't see a lot used often. I don't know if it being on an EX with a lot more health will like persuade people. Maybe? We'll see. Also, I will mention that in the current meta, this card sucks because Arceus counters poison. So if you're like, oh, I would love to use this card, I would probably wait for a little bit to use cards like this because unfortunately we are in a very Arceus heavy meta. And I don't know if that'll change or not with this set coming out. It might, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll definitely have to wait and see. Okay, this card, I think Beedrill's gonna slap. Beedrill EX looks like it's going to be so good. So I've seen people use regular Beedrill before. Regular Beedrill is pretty cool. It only needs 1 grass energy to do 70 damage. Pretty neat. This only needs 2 grass energy to do 80. And what it does is that it discards a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Do you know how many decks this can disrupt? It's crazy. You pair this with like Exeggutor EX and you're having a really good time. It also has 170 health, which is like kind of wild for just a Beedrill. You know what I mean? I honestly think this is going to be one of the more competitive cards purely because it rips energy from Pokemon. There are a lot of decks that build energy in the backline that wouldn't really be affected by this too much. But there are definitely a lot of decks where you could say like Palkia especially, this counters that so hard. And especially since it only requires 2 grass energy, you really don't need to worry about sticking too much energy on it to get it going. You don't have to worry about ramp or anything, so you don't have to worry about Lilligant or anything like that. And it still has Erica, so you can still use Erica to heal this. Executor EX is definitely the pair, I think, for this. There's not much else that I would really use on the grass line. I mean, you could run Arceus and Carnivine. That might be kind of fun, just like regular Arceus and Carnivine. With the Arceus link, that could be pretty cool. There's definitely a lot of options. We'll have to see what people kind of theory craft with this, but I definitely think that this card is going to be... I think this card's going to be in the meta. It definitely has a lot of disruption. And only 2 energy for 80 damage. That's pretty good. That's pretty good if you can get online quick. All right, we got Babero. I just love Babero because it's just a goofy Pokemon. It does 100 damage for 4 normal energy. You heal 30 damage from this Pokemon when you use it. Pretty good. You probably pair this with Dialga. This is definitely a card you'd pair with Dialga for sure. Because the 4 energy is crazy. Do I think it's good? I think it could be. You might use it on a water deck so you can use Irida. You could even pair this with like a Leafeon too for some crazy reason. I don't know, but it's definitely one of the Pokemon of all time for sure, without any doubt. I don't know if it'll be in a lot of people's decks, but Bidoof on its own is pretty good. So like now that it has an EX it can evolve into, I think more people are going to start using it. All right, we talked about red. I'm going to talk about Iono real quick. I say quick because this card sucks. I honestly think like the red card, Mars, and any cards that make your opponent get rid of cards and then shuffle and get other cards kind of suck. Red card's okay, but like your opponent could have a crappy hand and then you could give them the good card they need. You'll never know. Same with like Mars, I think is probably the better version of this. Because with Mars, at least, if your opponent just knocked out your EX and you play a Mars, they're only getting 1 card. And it's possible you've disrupted whatever plan they had for after they knocked out your EX. So, I don't know. Maybe Mars could be good in a lot of situations. But this card is like if your opponent is bricking and they have 9 cards in their hand, why would you give them 9 fresh cards? A, you're probably giving them most of what they already had. And B, you're probably going to give them what they need. I don't see people using this card, like, at all. This card is like... I don't know. The full art, I'm sure people will go crazy over because it's Iono, but I don't think this card gets used. I really don't. It just kind of sucks. I'm not sure what use case this has. Maybe I'm missing something, but it sucks. it just sucks. All right, we're not going to talk too much about a lot of the basic Pokemon because they're just basic Pokemon. A lot of really cool shiny Pokemon. We'll kind of look over them real quick here in a second just to see what they look like. But I wanted to show off Pinsir because it just needs 3 grass energy. Which, like, if you have Leafeon, maybe you could ramp this. Who knows? But it's a flip a coin until you get Tails move. I love these. We want more of these every time. I don't care who you are. Any card that has the Misty effect, sign me up. If this attack does 50 but could do infinity damage as long as I keep flipping heads, hey, I'm not going to knock that until I use it. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, I'm just saying, look out for Pinsir. It could be scary. Isn't it? I mean, it isn't. It's all luck-based, but, like, it could be. Oh. Also wanted to show off the Tatsugiri card real quick. A, because it looks incredible, and B, because the ability is interesting because it gives the active Dondozo no retreat cost. On its own, it's kind of, like, not the best Pokemon, but I'm wondering if, like, the Dondozo card will have an ability that is active if the Tatsugiri's in the bench, and it's not going to have a retreat cost. Like, that could go pretty hard depending on what Dondozo does. Like, if Dondozo is kind of crazy, then this might be a really good pair, obviously. I mean, that's how it is even in, like, the meta. Dondozo and Tatsugiri are a menace. So they have the potential to also be a menace in pocket as well, but we'll have to see if the Dondozo is crazy. All right, there are a bunch of other shinies that were shown off. Obviously, we got Pachirisu over here. We got Varoom, Wiglett. They're all fun. The room doesn't really do a whole lot, but that does mean we're going to get a Revelry, so that might be cool. The Pachirisu is kind of neat. It's taking electric energy from your energy zone and attach it to a benched electric Pokemon. So you could use this to build up a Pika EX that you have in the background that I mentioned earlier. It could work, but once again, it's not like you discard a couple energy from the Pikachu, it's all of it. So like once you use the move on a Pikachu, you're done. You either got to find a way to retrieve that Pikachu or you're getting knocked out. So, especially by like later game, you could end up in a tough spot. But you know, if you're looking to do damage real quick with Pika EX, honestly, Pachirisu wouldn't be a bad get to use this with the new Pika EX. You might do some damage. We also got Wiglett. Wiglett has like a move that does Spring Out, which is one of your opponent's Pokemon chosen at random and it does 30 damage, which is fun. Is it good? I don't know. If this lets you avoid the damage from like Rocky Helmet or Druddigan, that would be cool, but I don't think it does. Like, I think if you hit the active slot Pokemon with this move, you're in a bad spot. And then Sprigatito just exists. Sprigatito is just here for the ride. It is pretty much Caterpie. Put one random grass Pokemon from your deck into your hand. That's what Caterpie does. It's just Caterpie. Alright guys, I'm going to be clocking out. If you guys are excited for Shining Revelry, let me know in the comments. If you guys are excited to collect, if you guys are excited for the ranked mode that comes out like 2 days after the set comes out, let me know as well. That's going to be interesting, I think. I think the first couple days of ranked are going to be crazy. Because I think people are just going to be coming up with like wild decks left and right, and I am here for it. So if you guys liked the video, make sure you like and subscribe. And this is Clocky, clocking out. I hope you all have a fantastic day.